We're live.
Fantastic. Welcome, everybody, to today's webinar. We're going to be talking about why Inside Sales Playbooks product is the best damn cadence tool in the market. I can't believe we used the D word there. Wow, we went aggressive today. That was probably my call. But thanks so much for joining. We are going to be talking about Playbooks, Cadence, some of the things involved with the technology, how to use it, when to use it. So I'm excited. While we let a couple of the other stragglers come in, want to play just a quick video for those of you who've not even seen the tool. Let's make sure you get a little bit of an overview.
Behind every pass, every first down, and every 2-minute drill, and behind every game-winning touchdown is a play. Without a playbook, you have no direction, no plan, and no chance of success. But with the right play, you're in position to win. And it's the same in sales. Without the right plays and the right sequence, your sales teams will drop the ball. But with the right playbook built on the right insights, your sales teams are primed for success. That's exactly what Playbooks from InsideSales.com provides. It's a revolutionary sales platform that gives sales reps the plays they need to close deals. Who to call, when to call them, how to contact them, and how to manage multiple prospects moving through the sales funnel at once. Playbooks is based on decades of sales knowledge and the largest and most varied database of sales interactions in the world. 100 billion interactions and growing. So sales reps are always fed plays based on proven best practices and accurate data, which means they get the best plays at the best times. With all that power at their fingertips, even the rookies will sell like veterans. And the entire team will perform like all-stars. Playbooks will fuel more contacts, more conversations, and more closed deals. Because with Playbooks, you're always in a position to win.
All right, fantastic. Nice little overview on our Playbooks product. Welcome, everybody who has joined. We got a great turnout today. I want to make sure that this is interactive, so if you can, pop up your QA box down there in the bottom and just type your name and your company. Would love to know who we've got on, just so I can kind of tailor the conversation that direction. Yeah, Linda, Michael, Deb, Ben, Ron, Chandra, Lisa, TJ. Fantastic, guys. Thanks so much for joining. Again, let's make this interactive and have a good time. I am Gabe Larson. I run what we call our Inside Sales Labs. Labs is our research and best practice group. We've got great content. If you haven't seen it, follow me, ping me, grab me on LinkedIn or Facebook or YouTube, and we've got some fun stuff for you to check out. In addition, if you've not already seen it, please do check out our Playmaker podcast. Just about crossing the 15,000 listens a month. Got a great following on that. Twice a week episodes, all things sales. You can find that on iTunes, Google, Stitcher, etc., etc. So one quick house cleaning item before we get in. If you haven't already, just refresh your browser. I want to be showing the actual product, and I want to make sure that you can see both my screen share and the live window here. So if you can, refresh your browser real quick, because we just put in a setting to make sure you can see both of those here in just a minute. So let's get into it. First, we're just going to be touching on cadence for a minute. I want to know how good your cadence is. One of the key concepts with Playbooks is this idea of cadence. And we've got a tool to score or assess your cadence. Go to cadenceassessment.accelerateInsideSales.com. Put in your cadence, and then one of our representatives will get back to you about how good your cadence is. We're going to actually score it. So if you don't want to be scored, don't do it. So as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about Playbooks, and one of the fundamental points of our Playbooks products is the cadence piece and how you can deliver that to your customers. Now, a lot of people ask, what is the right place, or what is the right role for a cadence? And I want to make sure we establish that up front, because at InsideSales.com, we have two product sets. We have our Playbooks product, and we have our Power Dialer product. Both products are fantastic. and I would typically use them in different situations. And so what you're seeing here is, if you're a strategic account executive who's going outbound, doing a lot of prospecting to target accounts, this is where Playbook's going to come into play and be very effective. On the sales development side, if you are, again, more of a strategic sales development, you're going out to target accounts, this is another great place where Playbooks can come into play. On the flip side, if you're a sales development rep who has hundreds and a lot of leads and you're making tons of maybe calls, that's where our Power Dialer product really dominates. And so don't be afraid that you're not necessarily on the right platform, but know that different platforms work in different scenarios. Good. Okay, so I want to now talk about 3 ways that I feel like Playbooks really supplements and helps accelerate the sales process, and I want to do that in this manner. So number 1, if you're a good salesperson, you've got to know your target accounts and be working with them within kind of your accounts and contact. Number 2, you've got to know your rapport concept. You got to be able to reach out in a personalized way. Don't get nerve. You don't go too much automation. That's one of the problems with Cadence tools in the markets is people are going too automated. They're turning into marketers. We want to find that balance, and I think Playbook steps in and provides that in a very powerful way. Next is, and not last but least, is our a good cadence. I mean, guys, one of the things you're going to hear me say a little bit today is a tool's a tool. You've got to know best practices on Cadence, or any Cadence tool isn't going to be that great. I mean, I love this joke. I've used it a few times. But how many people have lost weight using a weight scale? Not very many, because the weight scale doesn't inherently lose weight. You've always got to combine the weight scale with a weight loss program. And that's where Cadence and a Cadence tool come into play. You got to know best practices and then facilitate that in a tool. And I think InsideSales.com does that better than anybody else. Okay, so I'm going to dive into these 3. Let's get at it. Number 1 is the who. So we're going to talk about companies and people. So quick stat, this is by Inside Sales Labs, my team. Your best prospects close at 4 times the rate of your worst prospects. Now, some of you might say that makes sense. That's pretty normal. The problem is a lot of times we're having a difficult finding who are our optimal target accounts, target contacts. And I want to show you how Playbooks can help with that. But before I do, I'm always a believer that you match art and science. And so if you haven't done this exercise already, you need to be thinking about who your target accounts are using the qualification model. Now, we call it ANIM. That's authority, need, urgency, and money. And what we do is we have this concept of our ANIM table, which is basically like our ideal customer profile, if you will. And we'll facilitate, as we look through different accounts, which ones match these types of criteria. So you say, okay, what does my optimal account look like? Well, maybe you say title function. You need to say we only work with salespeople or sales operations. You've got technology. They need to have a CRM or engagement. Are they actually interacting with stuff on our website? And then maybe funding capability. Did they take money? Each of these elements follows that structure of ANIM, and it's a way to start actually determining, are these people the right people we should be working out? Now, again, I'm a fan of art and science, and this is where I think you take the art and you bring in some technology and science to really do the job right. Let me give you an example and then show you how Playbooks just kills it with this. We just did an account-based marketing campaign. It's called Don't Be Blindsided. And a lot of people say, when you do an account-based marketing campaign, how do you come up with the accounts that you should target? Which ones should you send it to? In this instance, we had Steve Young, we had footballs, and we had Steve Young, the famous football player, sign them. And then we sent them out, to a handful of prospects. But there was a debate. Which prospect should it go to? Well, this is where the art and the science comes into play. So we talked to the sales team and said, what do you think? Who do you feel like? Use that ANIM model and go through to find who you feel would be good to do it. Then we use Playbooks and our AI, our Neurolytics piece built in, to actually score and determine which accounts were most likely to interact with us, which ones were most likely to buy from us. The combination of art and science led to a very successful ABM campaign. So the takeaway on this is, remember, art and science is where you typically want to find it. You always want to focus. Be careful with target accounts. You don't want to have thousands. The reason they're called target is because you want to figure out those accounts are the most optimal to buy from you, and then don't think you can ever close a loan. You know, when you work this strategy and you're going after target accounts, a team effort's always going to be more important. So, for the punchline, how does Playbooks help facilitate this? And I'm going to show you in slide fashion first, and then I'm going to jump to a demo and kind of walk through how this would work in real life. So go with me just for a minute here. Within your Salesforce or within your CRM instance, and if you can see that, there's some blue bubbles there on the right-hand side. That's basically our Neurolytics score. That's the probability that someone is likely to buy from you. It's great to be able to sort off that and figure out which contacts or accounts you want to go after. So with that view, you choose one of them. You go ahead and click and import it. You can see that button right there on the top. It says import into Salesforce. Nice, slick interface. Now, the thing you're seeing here is that little right-hand side, the Playbooks feature. That's our Chrome extension. It's the best Chrome extension in the market. It follows the wraparound and is a seamless interactivity between your CRM or if you're in LinkedIn, etc. So I love how that follows the wraparound. It's not a different browser, so I don't have to have two screens. One of the big differences, you know, of the Inside Sales Cadence tool, Chrome extension really built out really tight. I love that interface. So you've got this person. I hit that button, import from Salesforce, and then I'm imported, and I'm starting to think about my play. Now, an added benefit and an added feature in this is our ability to give you better contact information. You can see right here, I'm trying to import. I just put my own name just so you could get an example. Gabe Larson. I've put an email there, Gabriel McKay. That's my middle name. At isdc.com, that's not my email. You can notice I've clicked on it and said, hey, load, emails sent to this email address have a low chance of being opened based on other emails sent by InsideSales.com customers. Now, guys, this is where the power of Inside Sales is it just tops. It's just the cherry on top. You won't see this out in the market. And you're going to hear more and more features being released from Inside Sales regarding this concept of cross-company data. What that basically means is we're looking at that email address, and we're seeing how you and other customers are using it. And if they're not having success with that type of email address, we're going to let you know. It's kind of a similar concept of Amazon. When you go to Amazon and you buy something from Amazon, you'll see down at the bottom there's kind of that recommended from other buyers, and it says, hey, other buyers bought this. You might want to think about it. That's what that idea is all about. You need the cross-company data to make this more powerful. Imagine if you went to Amazon for a minute and that recommended buyer concept was just about you. It was just about what you did in your own history. Blah, boring. I mean, that's ridiculous. But when you open it up and you look at what other customers did, then you get that power. And that is one of the key differences of the InsideSales.com Playbooks Cadence tool, is you've got these AI features. And again, continue to watch for more coming out, but I'll highlight a couple of them as we go through today's talk track. So I imported smoothly into Playbooks. I got some great tools to be able to double down on that contact information. And then as I mentioned, we'll get into this, but I'm immediately starting a cadence, a best practice cadence that hopefully you've talked to us about or built into the application. So that's a way to kind of sum up how that helps in the concept of identifying your target accounts and your target contacts. Okay, point number 2, and I think this is a powerful one. Know how to engage your prospects. Thinking about rapport and cadence, let's go first rapport. So personalization is always going to trump automation. The combination of the two is where power really becomes synergistic, but I want to make sure that you keep that balance of, you know, thinking about trying to keep personalization on top of mind. If you can find a way to use rapport, personalize your outreach, surprise, surprise, you're going to have a better chance of actually getting an appointment and moving that prospect down the pipeline. Now, some manual ways to do this. There's some great things out there. Glassdoor, I've actually used Glassdoor a few times to kind of get an idea of what's going on with the company. DataFox is great. Obviously, LinkedIn, I mean, that's one you can't go out with. Charlie, Spyfu, Indeed, there are all these tools out there that you can go and kind of hunt down, and you can find some great information to see if you can't personalize or build rapport with your prospects. Again, this is where we like to see the art and the science come together. So just a quick example, and I'll show you how this works in Playbooks. I was working with a sales rep, and he had a target account that he wanted to go after. And what he was able to see is, oh my goodness, we got some current customers. We got some people who we're connected with who are connected with that target account. Why don't we see if we can play that connect the dots play rather than just reach out to the target account cold? I'll look at and see if I can talk to our current customer. Maybe they can make a warm introduction. These types of moments, these insights, provide powerful exceptions to be able to build rapport rather than reach out cold. So quick summary on that. Again, art, and think about science and technology, and I'll show you how Playbooks facilitates that in just a second. But whenever you can, try not to go in cold, and your network is going to be extremely, extremely powerful on that. So how can Playbooks really help facilitate this idea? Well, within the Playbooks product, you can see kind of that Chrome extension again on the right-hand side. The little button says Insights. And what that Insights does is it pops out and provides some great rapport building information. I'll demonstrate this here in just a minute, but I wanted to flash it. So you're going to see some in the bottom right hand, and you can see it says they're powered by Owler. So a lot of this is coming from the Owler application, but it's built in. Again, one of the complaints we have from sales reps is too many screens, too many tabs. I want to be able to kind of have a home base, a one-stop shop, if you will, and Playbooks is really close to that. So again, you got some company information, you got some things about Lucid, Lucid software here, then you got some stuff about the individual, what they're doing, some real nice pieces right there in the application that you can grab and then personalize into some of the communication that you'll be doing on a phone call or on an email. All right, now, last but not least, and then we'll kind of get into the product here just a little bit, is this Cadence concept. Cadence is it's such a meaty conversation. So much to talk about with Cadence, and again, I'm just a huge believer, you guys, that the tool is the tool. You've got to make sure you know some of the best practices around Cadence, and we've been doing a lot of research on this. If you haven't checked it out, hit me up on LinkedIn. Talk to your account manager. We came out with a Cadence audit study. We looked at 9,000 companies and how they're building their cadences to see what kind of good and bad is. We've got some different cadences that we've actually designed that we found to be very effective. That's part of the labs group, some experiments. I'm showing you a stat right here. We just talked to 1,200 companies to figure out what they're doing with their cadence. So we've got some good information around cadence. If you feel like you're lacking in that department, again, hit me up because you got to know it. So this was a fun one. We just did this state of sales development research. And again, if you'd like to get this piece of content, by all means, let us know. Just about 1,000 companies, which was mind-boggling. A lot of sales development research up to this point. It's been, maybe 100 or 2, but almost got 1,000 companies. This is meaty. Now, this was survey data, but this is a funny stat. So reps report doing an average of X touches per lead, when in reality they do Y. What do you think? I'm going to throw it in the Q&A box if you can. What do you think X and Y there actually is? Okay, so we got a couple of people coming in. Sorry, guys, I'm still overcoming just a little bit of a cold from the weekend. But so Tom says 20. So 20 and 10. We got Mary says pretty low. She says 7 and 6, so pretty close. Okay. Greg's got 8 and 2. Not bad, Greg. It's getting closer. Yeah, I won't read them. Yeah. Taylor, we got 15 and 11. 6 and 3 from Ross. Elizabeth, 5 and 1. All right. Survey says 12.1 and 4.05. So Greg was pretty close. Who else was close? Mary was pretty close. So, guys, this is pretty alarming. Now, if you're a sales rep, you may not like this because you're like, hey, wait a minute. This is basically saying that I lie. And you'd be right in that assumption. You would be right in that assumption. But this is alarming if you run a sales team, if you run a sales development team in particular. This is kind of where the stat comes from. You got reps who are saying, hey, I do 12 and a half touches per lead. But when we ran the audit of externally from these companies, again, not using CRM data, externally running an audit, we found that the average lead is touched 4.05 times. Now, that's why I want you to go to that cadence assessment.accelerateinsidesales.com. And I want you to tell me what you think yours is, and again, we can score it. But know that there are good and bad cadences. There just absolutely is. So one of the big things that came out of our study, you guys, was that there's 5 elements to a cadence. And if you want to really get a good cadence, you got to be thinking about all 5 of these elements. You're not going to hear this anywhere else. And again, this is why I want to throw this out, because if you're not taking the best practices from Inside Sales Labs, I mean, we're doing a research report a month. We've got experiments coming out. If you're not taking some of these best practices and applying it with the tool, you're not getting the synergy that I think you could. So before this study came out, most people thought cadence was just attempts and duration. We've added now media, spacing, and content. So let me just go through it real quick. So attempts is your total number of touches. Again, number of phone calls, email, social, etc. Media is that pattern. Which pattern are you going to create? Are you going to go phone, 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 email? Are you going to go email, social, phone? How are you going to kind of mix and match it? Duration is first touch to last touch, time between. Spacing is the number of days or the time between each touch. So if I do one call on Monday and then my second touch is Tuesday morning, the time between those is my spacing. And this is one of the more often missed ones. And I'm seeing a lot of problems. I'm going to show you in just a minute an example of a real life one. And it can be very problematic there. And then content is really the X factor. Great content can just make a cadence, wow. And that's going to be number of words, what kind of subject line in the email, voice message, what do you say on your first call, etc. I'm actually seeing some people come in on our sales cadence audit. I'm loving it. We got about 5 people already. Again, cadence assessment.accelerateinsidesales.com. I hope we can come back at you and nail you on cadence because we can actually benchmark. It's a great tool, great tool. I didn't mean to spend too much time on that, you guys, but I wanted to make sure you got some foundational elements of a cadence. But there is always going to be a little bit of an art and a little bit of science. So let me take you through. Ooh, can we see this here at all? I hope you can, because I want to take you through just a couple examples of cadences. These are real cadences that people send to me. And if you do want me to personally review your cadence or look at what you have, again, either go to the website or email me or hit me up on LinkedIn. I probably get, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 cadences a month from people just randomly sending to me, and I love the conversation. So, again, feel free to hit me up, and I'll tell you what we know, and I promise it's a decent amount. Okay, so here's one cadence, a real cadence from a real client. I happen to just kind of blind it so I don't, make them feel good or bad. But so it's company ABC. We're going after target accounts, and I put the sequence up there, right? So it was 25 total touches, and they are more strategic. These were strategic reps that were reaching out and trying to close, bigger deals, if you will. So let me kind of walk you through it. Now, I'd love your opinion on these. If you can, throw them in the chat box. What is good or bad about this cadence in your opinion? And I'm going to throw out some of my opinions, and I don't want to spend too much time on it. I mean, one is the duration is wow. This looks almost like some sort of marketing drip campaign rather than some sort of sales cadence. 80 days, that's wow. That's humongous. A couple of you saying you saw that as well. Another thing that jumps out is notice the spacing. This was the one I was mentioning before. This is problematic, you guys. Day 1, day 2, day 7, day 14, day 21. Ooh, yikes. That spacing, you really want to keep all our data saying spacing should be in the 1 to 3. If you really want to push it, you might go to 4. 1 to 3 days is optimal, so be a little bit careful on there. Yeah, Michael's saying too many email. Very heavy on the email. I mean, just very heavy, Michael, probably on everything. I mean, 25 total. I mean, with a cadence, you guys, the average duration of a cadence, according to our data, is around 4 days. And again, I won't get too much into that, but typically you want to have your cadences. If you're going outbound, you want to be in that 15 to kind of 30 range. And that's going to differ if you're transactional, meaning you're selling small deals, versus relational, selling big deals. And whether you're a sales development rep or account executive. Those are three things that always affect cadence. Let me just repeat them to you. I got one person who said, can you repeat them? Jason, I'm going to say them right now. So number one is account executive versus sales development. You're going to see different cadences there. Number two, transactional relational. You're going to see different cadences depending on that. And then number three, inbound versus outbound, or new business versus existing business. Those are three great layers of, you just can't say all one cadence works for everything. It just doesn't. So you got to typically break it down into those avenues. So those are a couple thoughts on this cadence. Let me just flash one more and kind of get your thoughts on this one. A little bit shorter. This now is a transactional outbound, 9 touches, so a little low on the touches and a little short on the duration, especially for being transactional outbound. I would have probably extended this to 2 weeks, about 10 business days. And I probably added a few more touches into that. And I was disappointed to see no social in this. I mean, social, you got to remember you have multiple weapons to use. In fact, I like to say right now there's 7 primary weapons you can use in a cadence. One, and I'm going to go kind of aggressive to passive, phone calls, text message, voicemail, email, social, and then I'm going to say email with video. It's coming on so fast, I'm calling it a separate tool at the moment. And then high-impact mailers. I don't know if you got that whole list, but those are all the different tools you can use in a cadence. Probably want to be thinking about all of them. Don't just be a social seller. Don't just be a cold caller. Don't just be an email marketer. Find that balance. And in this case, I thought, God, these guys probably ought to, if you get into, so spacing is pretty tight, duration a little low, number of touches a little bit low. Again, we're not going to dive into the content. A lot of people saying, yeah, Michael, Tim, yeah, no social kind of jumped out to you guys as well. Now, this is I just want to flash this because we'd consider this to be a tighter cadence following the same idea of transactional outbound. So these guys are small, they're selling smaller deals. They're going outbound though. But notice we pick that up a little bit. You get into that 15 number, which is pretty aggressive over about a 2-week time frame. Again, transactional cadence are going to be a little shorter. That's where you're going to see more in the 10-ish business day, 2-week time frame. As you go more relational, you typically extend that a little bit more into the 15, 20, up into the basically max of 30. I usually like to keep it around more like 20, but in transactional cadences, typically a little shorter. You want to be a little more aggressive. Relational, a little bit more strategic, a little bit longer in duration. A couple of you are saying, I'm trying to take notes, but you're not getting all this. Again, if you have questions, you can feel free to hit me up after. I give you some of those. It's a good comment, Mary. Again, spacing on this is fairly tight. Notice we're going about a day to 3 days in spacing. Again, overall duration a couple weeks, touches at about 15, and we're using more of those tools. You're seeing social and email and voicemail and phone work its way together. And again, there's some art and science here, but know that there is some science and it isn't always just art. So wanted to take you through that so you could kind of get your mindset around optimal cadences. And again, always happy to dialogue around that because there's some nuances you need to be thinking through. So art and science, make sure you get it, use some data, get some systems in place. We're going to talk about how Playbooks can help facilitate this in just a second. Know that the definition of a cadence isn't just to increase contact rates. Our definition of cadence is a sequence of activities to increase contact and qualification rates. A lot of people are like, that doesn't seem like that's that cool. It's about our 43rd iteration. So I hope it seems cool, or I hope it seems okay. But in all truthfulness, a lot of thought put into that definition, but I want to just highlight one thing. A great cadence, you guys, can educate your buyer. That's the reason qualification is fitting. That you do it right, you educate. You don't just engage, you can also educate. Don't forget about the personalization. Always want to kind of reiterate that because I think it's very, very important. So a couple of you asking, how can Playbooks help facilitate this? I mean, this is one of the fundamental features of Playbooks, is to help facilitate some of the best practices that we put out around sales cadences or sales plays. So I just want to throw this out here. So that last cadence I just took you through, this is it. This is the play in This is a cadence in Playbooks. We call it the Challenger. Again, it's a 15-touch sequence here. And this is something that I can literally download right now and send over to you if you had Playbooks. And you could pop it in your Playbooks, change the messaging a little bit, and just start cracking on it. It's a great feature to be able to share plays. I mean, one of the things we've found so helpful here at InsideSales.com, you've probably heard me talk about the coffee play. Excuse me, one rep started to run it, has a lot of success. Don't have to recreate and reinvent the wheel. All we have to do is pass that along via Playbooks, and then everybody can actually use it, and it really facilitates some great learning. Excuse me. Again, sorry, just a little sick from the weekend. So how does this work, again, in Playbooks? You create that play, and then what you're basically able to do is have people then just start running through that play. And you can see I've got phone calls as part of it, and emails and social touches and different activities that I can help execute to be able to run that play effectively and reach out at the appropriate time following best practices to get those contact and qualification rates boosted up as high as possible. So again, wanted to just give you some overview. Want to take the last couple minutes, and I know we're getting short on time, but last couple minutes and just kind of walk through it via screen share. But great in helping identify target accounts and contacts and getting that right information. Awesome tool in building rapport. And then a great tool in helping facilitate a nice, smooth cadence so that you can increase your contact and qualification rate. So now we're going to go into a quick demo from yours truly. But before I do, feel free to click that link. Again, cadenceassessment.accelerate.insidesales.com. That's going to get you the ability to just go and put in your cadence, and then we'll get back to you on how good or bad or ugly your cadence may be. And with that, I'm going to pop over and just show just a couple aspects of the actual product here. Sharing my screen now. Just give me a quick thumbs up for those of you that are out there. Can you see? Are you seeing my screen here? Yes. Oh, I lost my chat box. There we are. Yes, looks like you are. Fantastic. Okay, good. So here it is. This is kind of the extension you're seeing here on the right-hand side. And I've got a Salesforce instance. I was just going to show you my live stuff because a lot of people are like, hey, why are you talking about Playbooks? You know, you're not a full-time salesperson. You're carrying a monthly quota, although I spend a lot of my time with the sales team. I actually use Playbooks for our podcast. So if you've ever listened to the Playmaker podcast, we got about 150 episodes. All of those guests were gotten using Playbooks as a reach out tool. So don't think that it can't be used for different things. We've got account executives, as I mentioned. We've got some customer success reps using it. So multifaceted. If you got a podcast, you can use it to get guests as well. Anyways, let me walk you through just a couple things. So first and foremost, you've got kind of the overview. This is the dashboard. Got some fun things, just kind of seeing what's generally going on. But I want to go here quickly into the plays. And again, plays and cadences are somewhat of a synonymous term. We've got a couple different plays in here. And I can share or import if I need to. But I can go ahead and create a new play if I'd like to. I'd name that play, this is going to be my test play. And then I can start adding different steps. So I can say I want to add a phone call, and I can put in some test script or some language around this. Then I say, I probably want to wait. I wouldn't go too far, remember. It'd probably be more of that 3 days-ish. And again, you may say, I want to change that a little bit. But 3 days, and then I add in a new step. Let's put an email as number 2. And I just want to let you see kind of the sample of how easy it is to create a play. And again, you can also share plays very easily. So this is going to be my test email. You can attach files. Love this feature, this send automatically. I use it in my podcast. So as soon as I add somebody to a play, I say, let's get them, 8 a.m. I want them to get this email, and it says, welcome. I'd love to have you on my podcast, etc. So we can put that in there. And again, you go through this process of just building out some of these recommended steps, and you can throw some other steps in there if you wanted to throw a social touch. So you got voicemail and email and social, and you start weaving these different functionalities in. Then you go ahead and create that play. Now, fairly simple. I'm not going to save that at the moment. Fairly simple just to get the play, and then I've got these different plays to choose from. So what that allows me to do is I've got my Salesforce instance here, and as I showed you in kind of the demo slides, we've got a score over here, and this is a contactability score, and I could take one of these people, let's say, Mark Regan. He happens to work at InsideSales.com. So I'm going to pull him up, and then what I want to do is I want to go back to my dashboard, and I actually want to add a new person in here. In this instance, I'm just going to put Mark Regan in. So again, very seamless import from Salesforce. I can pull that in. We talked about this a little bit. Notice his email isn't great, so I've got suggested email here. I could choose that and get a better email, better contact rate. Oh, that's so powerful to be able to know that in an effective manner so that I start my play. I can do that more appropriately. I can save him, and then he's going to be in my database there to start reaching out to. So now that I've got somebody in there and I've assigned them to a specific play, I can go ahead and start some of my tasks for the day. Now, a lot of people are like, hey, I want to run my tasks in a slightly different manner, and that's where this filter option comes in. I can say, I want to go off. You're going to see more things coming into play here. But I can go off their company name. That's more of an account-based approach. Or I can go off my neural score, people who are more likely to buy from me or more likely to interact with me. And doing that kind of allows me to put my activities in a way that's just more appropriate. It works within the way that I design my workflow. I jump into one of these. I probably wouldn't really be reaching out to Jeff at Amazon, but then I've basically got the task that I can do or that I need to do. In this one, it happens to be an other task. Again, this is just a sample play here that Jeff is in, but it could be a phone call or an email or an automatic email. I can pop up and I can actually just do a phone call here if I wanted to quickly call them. So I've got a couple different options that I can facilitate in these types of activities. Now, last but not least, I wanted to mention this. As I talk to people, depending on who they are and what they're doing, I've got phone calls and emails and different types of activities that I can do. Let me see if I can get back to Jeff here in just a minute. But there is a feature that allows me to actually schedule an appointment. Sometimes you'll get someone like Jeff on the phone and he'll say, hey, I don't have time to talk right now. Can you call me back a little bit later, or can you hit me back later? This is a great feature that allows you to say, hey, why don't I just call you, in an hour from now or something. It allows you to get this kind of callback or this reminder feature, puts it in your calendar to help you make sure that you do actually follow through on the action that you promised, and it holds the play to make sure that you kind of manage both systems appropriately. I feel like this has been very advantageous. Now, as you go through the different steps, as you kind of get finished, remember we talked about this insights feature, so you can kind of see, we've got Jeff here and we've got different company pieces around that. So if we want to know a little bit about what's going on before I do my social or email touch or phone, that fits into there and really tightens that down. We've got our neurolytics concepts. So we know this person, are they going to engage? Are they likely to buy from us? Now, depending on how things work out, we can then kind of unenroll from this play, or we can say, hey, you know what, this play was successful. And kind of unenroll Jeff from this because we got him and we're moving him down the process, moving him into our pipeline as we facilitate that overall sales process. So all very slick, guys, right, built in. So as I move from application to application, this little Chrome extension is going to follow me, and it becomes a nice tool. It's not getting in your way. It's not adding other things like a new window, new browser window. Nice kind of Chrome extension, very simple to just add people to plays, make sure you're following up on the right one, know what you need to with that insights, and then run those best practice cadences so you can really kind of double down and build that pipeline the way you want it to. Brief overview, but I wanted to show you a little bit of the tool and some of the ways I use it on a daily basis just to get my podcast guests, which a lot of people are like, well, that's weird. But again, it's multifaceted. You can use it in a lot of different ways. So I'm breaking down the screen share. Wanted to go back to the presentation, and then again, feel free to click this button, cadenceassessment.accelerateinsidesales.com. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining. Couple Q&A. I was off the screen, and I can see there's a couple questions around Playbooks or Power Dialer. Let's get into a couple of those, and then we'll break and let you guys get back to your day job. So again, couple questions on which type of role you want to be thinking about Playbooks for. Best to talk to your account management on that, because every role is slightly different. But again, some of those best practices say, hey, if you're more of a strategic rep, if you're more of a strategic account executive, you want to be thinking about going Playbooks. If you're more of a transactional, let's say you're focusing on inbound leads and you've got a lot of them, that's a better place for Power Dialer. So I hope, John, that kind of helps answer that question a little bit more. So one person said, if you had to just boil it down from other Cadence tools in the market, what is kind of the biggest differentiator between a Playbooks product and other Cadence tool? You're going to find, truthfully, guys, if you want to split hairs, every company is going to have slightly different, little features here, little features there. I think the big difference you're going to see in the Playbooks tool is this idea of data and science and using some of these AI capabilities to make your reps work even smarter. So I mentioned one around email or phone calls. If I send an email and it's not working, we're going to score that email lower so that the rest of our customer base can kind of understand that that's not maybe the best email. And I'll just tease this one out, but on email you're going to see something around kind of not just an auto email send that's currently in there, but you're going to have kind of a predictive email send that's going to say, hey, we've looked at people like this. This is who they're heads of sales, and they're typically engaging or opening emails the most at this time. And so it's going to optimize your send of emails when the system knows that it has the best chance to actually get that email engagement. So if I just had to simplify it, right, it is this idea of data and science. AI is obviously the biggest buzzword. InsideSales.com is just 10 years ahead of everybody on that front. And so imagine Amazon. That's kind of the inside sales of the Cadence tool. Hopefully that was helpful, Lizzie. A couple other questions on Cadence. These are good questions, you guys, on just best practices and how you can facilitate that. It's probably best, rather than trying to get into the specifics on this of, exactly what would work in these situations. And this is coming from Peter, and really also from at least Isaac, I think is probably the way I'm saying it there. When it comes to Playbooks, I mean, plays are going to be the new normal. Tools are tools, and they are great tools, but when you can develop great plays that have these cadences that really are working, you think about our coffee play. For those of you who've heard about that, right? So we built this play that had a cadence that involved mailers and text messages and was very detailed in the way we executed it. And Playbooks facilitates it. But the thought process in getting the play right and the cadence right in combination with Playbooks was killer. So Isaac, if you guys want to reach out to me, I can answer those specific questions and maybe look at that around kind of your specific use case. But I do want to just, again, cadence, it's so important to kind of get it right and then use the tool to help facilitate some of those best practices. So, okay, everybody. Well, I know we're over time. Thank you for some of the questions again. If you haven't already, go to cadenceassessment.accelerateinsidesales.com. We'll get back to you, talk to you about your cadence and what you're doing. And be happy to talk to you if you feel like Playbooks is something you want to be thinking about. So with that, have a fantastic day. Take care.